Verse 20. Zacharias said, "Behold, you shall be silent and unable," this is the angel talking, "unable to speak until the day when these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their proper time." I like it, the angel, he spoke to him with authority. He kind of stated who he was. He said, "Excuse me, I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God. Do you?" "No, you don't. You come in here. We let you come in here, and we may let you leave. We may not kill you. But I stand there in the presence of God. This is who I am. And how dare you question me and what I say?" It's like, and he tells them. He says he blessed them with muteness. He did. He blessed them. That was a blessing that he couldn't talk. Because his unbelief would have messed it up. He'd have went out there and just talked that trash till God was, "I can't do it. I can't even do it." He just killed it. But he blessed them with muteness so that the unbelief would not destroy the work of God. It kind of reminds me of the children of Israel when they marched around Jericho. He told them, "Be silent." And they were. I don't know how he did it. But they were silent walking around Jericho. Sometimes the best thing we can do is just keep our mouth shut. Especially, don't talk to people, those unbelieving believers. I don't know if you know them, Those people that, they just don't believe. They're believers, but they don't believe. I know when I went to Bible college, I didn't talk to a lot of people about it. Because I knew I wasn't going to get positive response from them. So it's like, I ain't going to tell you. Forget it. So let's move on to Luke 70, chapter 1, verse 76. Luke's a big long. Luke 1's long. 76 says, "And you, child, will be a prophet." This is after he's born. His father gets filled with the Holy Ghost, starts to prophesy. "And you, child, will be called the prophet of the Most High. You will go before the Lord to prepare his way, to give his people the knowledge of salvation by the forgiveness of their sins, because of the tender mercy of our God, with which the sunrise from on high will visit us, to shine upon those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace." And the child continued to grow and become strong in spirit, and lived in the desert until the day of his public appearance in Israel. This is the main thing about John the Baptist that I got. John the Baptist had problems in his family. There was conflict. This is what I think. Because it had to be there. Because here you have a family of priests. I don't know if you know the history, but they were priests. I mean, this isn't second generation preacher, third generation, fourth. I mean, these guys were priests for 800 years. They'd always been priests. And all of a sudden, they get this prophet born into their family. And I could just see the conflict. Priests, it's just a recipe for conflict. It's just, priests have order. Everything's done. Everything, they're cleaning all the stuff. Everything's put out a certain way. This is the way we do it. And they do the same thing over and over. Every day they do the offering. Every day they do all this stuff. The prophets don't do that stuff. Prophets hate that stuff. Prophets hate order. They just, and I could just see this problem. I mean, I know he knew the prophecy, but I don't think he understood how the prophecy would affect his family. He dreamed about having a son, and then what do you dream about? You have to dream about your son growing up and doing your life. Only maybe not making the mistakes you made. But his son wasn't going to do his life. His son wasn't going to, he was going to scoff at his priestly teachings. And, when they had the Torah class, he was out in the woods. Where is he? He wasn't learning. He wasn't memorizing. How, he's trying to look through the logic. How are you going to be a prophet if you don't know the word and all the stuff? Good prophets, they don't have to know it, memorize it. They just get it. I said, God spoke to me and he said this, and it's the word. And I could just see the conflict in his life, and the priest, it's about community. They do it all together. All the priests go to Jerusalem. And then a lot of them lived in Jericho. called the city of priests, and they would just, they travel together, they do it all. It's all community. But the prophet, he's out in the woods by himself. He's gone. So there's that loss of relationship with his son. He's like, where are you? He's out in the woods. And he probably went out with him. I'm going to try to get into his world, Come on, John, let's go out in the woods. Go out there and it's like, all right. So what do we do now? Oh, we just commune with God. Okay. I just see this, intense conflict, the wilderness versus the temple. But you have to learn. The lesson is to learn to trust God with your children, with their temperament and stuff. When God gives you a child, and maybe He gave you some prophecies about that child, how that child is going to grow up and what they're going to do. But sometimes, putting that into action or putting it into place is kind of difficult. Especially if it conflicts with you and what your dreams are. But I think the main thing you got to do is you got to bathe it all in prayer. Just tell God every step of the way. What should I do? Should I beat this child? Or no, let him go. This is the way. Some kids, you just got to look at them. And other kids, some kids you can whoop them and John the Baptist probably didn't even faze him. He just forehead of flint, just set right towards whatever he wanted. So what's wrong with that kid? Yeah. They can use that intensity, though. They need it. Because he had to have it. Because he had to face up with kings. I mean, you have to, a thing with boys, they have to they have to grow up and to be individual. They have to confront their father. I mean, for him to go and face the king, he would have to confront his father. At one point say, Dad, I have to do this. I have to go out in the wilderness and be his own man. So that would another thing that would have to happen. So he'd have to confront his father. So it would be just tough on a relationship when your son confronts you and you have to let him go and be who God has made him to be. So he could face that king and say, King, you're doing wrong. You're not living right. I mean, nobody else in the nation was doing it. They were talking about it behind their backs and stuff, but they were not facing the king. For John the Baptist to get up there and preach, that the king is doing wrong in those days. I mean, we may get to those days, and we probably are. I think there's a pastor in Canada for saying something, preaching against homosexuality. He's actually in jail, but it hasn't got to that point yet. But there will come a day, as the days get darker, that we may have to, stand up for what we believe. And it may have to cost something. It could happen. It could happen. But this is a lesson to learn with your kids, to trust God with your children and with their temperament and all the things that they believe what God is putting in their life. All right, that's all I got on the John the Baptist thing. I just wanted to talk about that because I thought about that and I thought that's cool, but you never get to talk about it, except for Christmas time. Let's talk about the birth of Jesus. Oh, I'm already at 12. Cool. I thought I'd be done in half an hour. Luke chapter 2, verse 1 through 1 and 3. Now in those days decree went out from Caesar Augustus, and the census was taken with all the inhabitants of the earth, and this was the first census taken while the governor was there, Assyria. I won't say his name, butcher it, he'll get mad. Everyone was on their way to register for the census, each to his own city, and Joseph went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house of David. All right. The author Luke, he blesses us. He gives us this historical setting. So he puts it here so we can shut the mouths of foolish men who don't believe that Jesus was a historical character, that he actually wasn't. They always say there was no real Jesus. Jesus wasn't born, whatever. It's just a myth. Jesus is a myth. I've heard that so many times. I can't believe it. But Luke puts this here so there's a historical setting to say, yep, right there at that time, not even connected to the Jewish world, connected to the Roman world, that they could go back in secular history and find out this is when it was happening.